President Obama delivered his most impassioned attack on Donald Trump Tuesday, saying the presumptive Republican presidential candidate's call to bar Muslims from entering the U.S. and his demand to use the phrase radical Islam would not help protect Americans from terrorists.
We now have proposals from the presumptive Republican nominee for President of the United States to bar all Muslims from emigrating to America. We hear language that singles out immigrants and suggests entire religious communities are complicit in violence. Where does this stop? That's not the America we want. It doesn't reflect our democratic ideals. It won't make us more safe, it will make us less safe, fueling ISIL's notion that the West hates Muslims. It makes Muslim Americans feel like their government is betraying them. It betrays the very values America stands for.
At an event in Greensboro, North Carolina, Tuesday night, Trump fired back.
Once again, we've seen that political correctness is deadly. They don't want to talk about the problem. And I watched President Obama today, and he was more angry at me than he was at the shooter. And many people said that. One of the folks on television said, boy, has Trump gotten under his skin. But he was more angry, and a lot of people have said this, the level of anger, that's the kind of anger he should have for the shooter and these killers that shouldn't be here.
Jon Allen is a columnist with Roll Call. He is in our Washington bureau. So, John, what did you hear in Trump's response just now?
Well, it's certainly a passionate response from Donald Trump. I heard him repeat this idea that he has that in order to stop terrorism, you have to prevent immigration, even though many of these attacks have been perpetrated by American citizens, including the one at the Orlando nightclub. Certainly heard him going after President Obama, arguing that President Obama is angrier at Donald Trump than he is at the Orlando shooter. So this is a speech that is not just a repetition of what we've heard from Donald Trump, but going farther, elevating to the level of attacking the president directly in no uncertain terms, and certainly with passion in his voice.
John, I want to ask about a new poll from Bloomberg conducted after the Orlando attack. 45% of likely voters say they'd have more confidence in Donald Trump to handle a future attack compared to 41% for Hillary Clinton. What do you make of that?
I think historically, Republicans have had an advantage in polling and in elections on national security. I'm not terribly surprised by those numbers.
It's within the margin of error, so.
Yeah, I mean, this is so. In some ways, you could look at that and say if a Democrat is at a draw with a Republican on national security issues historically, that's a pretty good place for the Democrat to be. Also, if you look at some of the other polling on similar questions about handling international crises, Clinton leads Trump on those. We're a long way from the November election, so it's obviously important to look at the polling to see how Americans feel. But I'm not sure that that's necessarily predictive of what you're going to see in November. And of course, we don't know if in November the big issue is going to be national security, or if the big issue is going to be the economy, or obviously potentially some mix of those and other issues.
Yeah, it's still a long ways away. Well, John, Clinton slammed Trump Tuesday and also called on GOP leaders to rebuke him. What is her strategy in invoking the broader Republican Party?
She's trying to isolate Donald Trump, and she's having some success, not necessarily because she's doing it, but because Republicans, many of them, don't want to stand with Donald Trump in what he's saying. House Speaker Paul Ryan today talked about the distinction between radical Islamic terrorism and Islam, and the practitioners, the people who practice that faith, who are moderates, who are allies of the United States abroad and domestically as well, seeking to make sure that allies of the United States don't end up hearing in Donald Trump's rhetoric a view that all Muslims act like the Orlando shooter, who said he was acting in the name of Allah, in the name of his religion, but obviously has perverted that religion.
Yeah, and a lot of questions really about what his true motivations were. Well, RNC Chair Reince Priebus put out a statement hitting President Obama after his remarks and slamming Clinton, but interestingly did not mention Donald Trump's proposals, the temporary ban on Muslims. Is the Republican Party, trying to create some distance from Trump?
I think the Republican Party's best strategy for this November is to run against Hillary Clinton, to try to unify voters against her, and right now is finding very little to embrace in Donald Trump. Reince Priebus's job as chairman of the Republican National Committee is to back the Republican nominee for president, so he has to find something to say. The anti-Clinton argument is one that binds Republicans together, and that's what he's going with. I don't think you're going to hear very many Republican leaders in Congress or leaders of the party nationally embracing what Donald Trump is saying about immigrants, embracing what Donald Trump is saying about Islam.
All right, Jon Allen for us. Jon, thank you.